It was a Friday afternoon in a bustling city in Nigeria. Mr. Philip, a hard-working businessman, was engrossed in his work, unaware of the impending crisis brewing at home. You see, Philip and his wife, Cassandra, had been married for 5 good years, but they had not been blessed with a child. The couple had prayed and begged God for a child, and after much perseverance, their prayers was answered. They welcomed their daughter, Zara, into the world, and their lives were filled with immense joy. On this particular Friday, Philip was supposed to pick up Zara from school, and it was raining cats and dogs, but as the workday dragged on, he became increasingly distracted. I will just finish this one more task, and then I will head out to pick my daughter from school, he told himself, thinking that before he was ready, it should have stopped raining, unaware of the worry he was causing his wife at home. Back at the school, it's 3 p.m. already. Zara waited patiently as other children were picked up by their parents. It was raining seriously as the students huddled outside their classrooms as they got picked up one after the other. Where are Mama and Papa now? She wondered, her small brow squeezed with concern. She was so tired and hungry. She had not eaten all day because Mommy packed spaghetti and it looks like worm to her. As the school emptied, she started pondering. Maybe I will just walk home, she said to herself, her excitement at the prospect of an adventure of walking in the rain overriding her worries. Meanwhile, Cassandra grew increasingly anxious. Philip and Zara should have been back by now, she said. She looked outside as the rain poured. She fretted, picking up her phone to call her husband. Hello, my love. Where are you and Zara? Philip's heart sank as he realized his mistake. Oh no, I completely forgot to pick up Zara. I'm so sorry, my dear. Can you please go get her? Cassandra didn't hesitate. Of course, I'll be on my way. Take it easy with work, okay? Love you. Bye, she said, picking up her handbag and umbrella, rushing out the door. As Cassandra made her way to the bus stop in the rain, she was able to get a bus to the school. She was already an hour late, and it would take her another 45 minutes to get to the school. But then, she encountered the notorious city traffic, something that is more serious when it is raining. Frustrated, she decided to get off the bus and to take a bike instead, seeing that it was now drizzling, because the bikes always manage to maneuver traffic better. I need to get to Zara as soon as possible, she muttered. She rushed out of the bus to look for a bike, holding up her umbrella. She flagged down an aboki, but then she realized that she left her bag in the bus. She told the aboki to go as she contemplated on how she was going to find the bus in the traffic and in the rain, because her phone was in that bag. If she misplaces the bag, how would she call her husband and even pay the bike man, she thought. Meanwhile, at the school, it's 5 p.m. already. Zara at this moment decided to make her way home in the drizzling rain. Her eyes fixed on a hot puff-puff vendor across the street. The hunger intensified in her belly. I want to buy puff-puff, she said, darting across the road without looking both ways. A passerby screamed, "Stop!" But it was too late. Suddenly, a speeding car came hurtling towards her, and Zara was struck, her small body crumpling to the ground. The driver, a young man who was engrossed in his phone, did not notice the child until he heard the scream from the passerby. He immediately braked, but it was too late. He came out of his car and rushed to Zara's aid. "No, I've hit a child," he cried, scooping up the unconscious child and placing her in the back seat of his car, and then sped off. Cassandra, on the other hand, unaware of the tragedy that had befallen her daughter, continued her frantic search for the bus she had left her bag. As it continued to drizzle, "I need to find that bus," she said, her voice trembling with worry, but unable to find it. She then decided to run to the school, since it was not too far again. By the time Cassandra reached the school, she was wet. She was sweating profusely and was out of breath from running. The school looked very silent and empty, but the gate was still open as she prayed with all her might to see her daughter in the school premises. But it was empty, and Zara was nowhere to be found. She decided to walk back out of the school gate when she saw the school principal coming out with the gate key. Then it had stopped raining. She saw Cassandra and looked at her in surprise. "Ah, Mrs. Cassandra, how are you? What are you doing here? And why are you sweating so much?" she asked. Cassandra tried to force a smile. "I am fine. Please, I just came in now very late to pick my daughter, but she is not inside the school. Do you know where she is?" "Your daughter? It's Friday, and your husband usually picks her up. Maybe you should call him." "My husband cannot pick her up and still ask me to come pick her up. I know him too well," Cassandra replied. "Yes, I am sure. But what if he managed to pick her up while you were still stuck in traffic? Please, just call him." Cassandra sighed and explained that she had lost her bag in the bus. The principal nodded in understanding, then reached out into her own bag and brought out her phone, which she gave to Cassandra, who immediately dialed Philip's number. Mr. Sam came into the city from his city for a business trip. He was late for the meeting as he tried to navigate the city road while he spoke on the phone with his investor. He was too caught up in the conversation that he did not notice a child crossing the road, and before he could hit his brakes, he had knocked the child down. Very worried, he drove on top speed to the nearest hospital according to the map. He made it to the hospital. As he carried out the child, the nurses proceeded to take the child from him as they rushed her into the emergency room. Sam began to pace left and right in the waiting room, so worried and scared for the child's life and for his as well, because how will he explain that he knocked down and killed the child? How? Few hours later, the doctor came out looking very sad. He took a deep breath. "I'm so sorry, sir. I have bad news," he said. "She lost a lot of blood, and she also had internal bleeding in her brain in a very delicate spot, and we need to operate on her immediately, or else she will die. The drugs and the injection I have given her would not handle it for long." Mr. Sam nodded. "Then let's take her in. I have the money to pay for the procedure," he said. The doctor looked more distressed. "Sir, we do not have the equipment to handle this type of surgery here. I can write a note that you can take with you to any hospital you want to take her to, and she would be attended to urgently," the doctor said. Sam was confused because he has no idea what hospital to take her to that would have the right equipment, since he is not from the city. But he knew that his family hospital is very capable of handling major surgeries like this. Sir, will it be okay for me to travel with her on a 5-hour journey so she can get treated in a specialist hospital? Mr. Sam asked, and the doctor nodded. He then proceeded to give him the notes and then gave the girl more injections to keep her safe. Mr. Sam immediately left with her in his car as he sped off to his city. Back at the school, Cassandra called her husband, who maintained that he had not picked up Zara, and he could not understand what his wife was telling him on the phone, that she could not find Zara. He hung up the call after promising to come there immediately. Tears began to stream down Cassandra's face as she stood there unsure of where her only child was. The principal started sweating profusely in the cold weather. When the gravity of the situation hit her, she immediately called Zara's class teacher, who rushed down to the school. She also did not know where Zara was. It was at that point that Philip rushed in, driving recklessly. He rushed to his wife and held her. She cried in distress. They were in that position as the principal looked at them in pity, knowing how long it took them to have that child. She too felt so sad and tears almost left her eyes. It was at that point that her phone rang. Then she picked it up. "Hello, Madam Principal. One of your pupils was just involved in a fatal accident and had been rushed to the hospital," the caller said. Hearing this, the principal moved away from them to a quieter corner and she asked the person to describe the child, which fitted Zara's description perfectly. She dropped the call as she looked at Mr. Philip and his wife, not knowing how they would feel if they found out that their only child was involved in a ghastly accident and that nobody knows where the driver of the car took her to. But on the other hand, she knew she had to tell them. She came to them with a very sad face. "Mr. and Mrs. Philip, I just got a call that your daughter was involved in a ghastly motor accident," she said. Their eyes widened. "Accident? When? So where is she?" they asked in unison. "That is the issue. Nobody knows where the driver of the car took her to." The principal spoke in pain herself. The couple shook their head in confusion as they made their way to their car. The principal and the teachers quickly followed them as they jumped into Mr. Philip's car, who drove off towards the nearest hospital. As they got to the nearest hospital, they all filed out of the car and rushed into the hospital. Mr. Philip went straight to the nurse at the reception and asked if a child in such school uniform was brought in. The nurse checked their record and told them that no child of such description was brought here. So they moved to the next hospital. This hospital was quite big. They also spoke to the medical receptionist, who confirmed that a child fitting to that description was brought in. They all looked relieved. She told them to wait while she goes to look for the ward the child was placed. While they were waiting at the waiting room, the doctor came out with a medical receptionist behind him. He looked worried. "You are the parents of the girl?" he asked them. "Yes, doctor. Can we see our daughter now, please?" they asked anxiously. He shook his head. "Well, she is not here right now. She sustained an internal bleeding in her brain, and we do not have the right equipment to operate on her. So the man who brought her here took her with him to his city," the doctor replied. It was as if he hit them with something, and they looked at each other in shock. Meanwhile, Mr. Sam was driving at top speed to his city. 2 hours into the drive, he was stopped by the police. and he showed them the note from the doctor instructing him to take the girl to a hospital that has the right equipment for her brain surgery, and they let him pass. Immediately he got to the hospital, his family doctor and nurses took over. The surgeon was invited. At that moment, the surgeon understood why he had been unable to leave the hospital since his last surgery ended. It was because of this child. They entered into the theater to operate on her after Mr. Sam paid the money required. Mr. Sam waited outside the theater room pacing, totally confused as his phone started ringing non-stop. It has been ringing since he was leaving the little girl's city. As he picked up his phone to answer the call, it was his wife, Sarah. "Honey, I have been calling you. Why have you not been picking up my calls?" She asked him immediately he picked up the phone. He sighed and then told her everything that has been happening. She then asked the hospital he was in, and she rushed over to be with him. Mr. Sam and Sarah were outside the theater room waiting when the surgeon came out smiling. They rushed towards him. "Is she okay?" Sarah asked the surgeon. He smiled and said, "Yes, by God's grace. She is out of harm's way for now, but she needs lots of rest. But there is an issue though. She has partial amnesia, meaning some of her memories will be missing when she wakes up. Don't worry, it's just temporary. But one thing she needs now is your love and care." The doctor finished, and they nodded. "But can we see her?" Sam asked, and the doctor nodded. "Just make sure not to wake her up with noise. She needs all the rest she can get." And then he left them. As they entered into the ward where the child was, and Sarah saw her hooked onto different machines, she started sobbing uncontrollably as her past flashed before her eyes. Cassandra fainted after hearing that her daughter is nowhere to be found. She was quickly rushed into a room and revived. When she woke up, she started crying and praying, "God, please save my own child. You know how long it took me before you gave me this child. Please help me." Philip consoled her as the principal and the teacher stood silently in one corner in shock due to the issue at hand. After she stopped crying, the couples decided to head home to wait for news. They left the principal and the teacher, but before they left, the principal once again apologized to them and urged them not to take out their anger on the school, reassuring them that she and her teachers would lend their hands to find Zara. Mr. Philip just left, knowing that indeed there was no use lashing out on their school. He took his wife home. When they arrived, he helped her upstairs and they sat in silence as the day's event washed over them. Philip started making calls and started creating awareness about the missing daughter of his. He was so lost in the calls that he did not notice his wife leave his side. He immediately rushed after her, alarmed, afraid to leave her alone, knowing how vulnerable she was at that point. He followed her to their daughter's room as his wife stood in front of Zara's wardrobe, just staring at her clothes as tears poured out from her eyes. She began to silently pray in tongues as she walked round her room, touching her things and declaring her safety. "Lord, you said I would not bury my young, so nothing would happen to my child, Lord. I call upon the host of angels to go over to wherever she is now and let your healing flow through her body. She finally knelt down in front of their family praying altar as she rounded up the prayer. In Jesus' powerful name I have prayed. And Philip, who was already kneeling in front of their family altar, answered, Amen and Amen. As he helped her up, taking her to the bedroom, where he proceeded to help her shower, then put her to bed as he stood watching her sleep, exhausted and still in tears even in her sleep. Sarah cried her eyes out. Sam led her away from the room in order not to wake up the little girl, because they were instructed not to wake up the girl or disturb her rest. But deep down he knew where the tears of his wife was coming from, and he too felt a wave of sadness. Years earlier, when they were newly wedded, his wife had gotten pregnant with their first child. As excitement spread through their home, as she showed him the beautiful double lines of the test strip, it was not long when she lost that baby. And after a few months again, she took in. And this time she tried to be very careful. She stayed away from anything that would stress her, heeding the instructions of the doctors. And as God would have it, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And they were overjoyed. Their joy was short-lived, as the doctor told them that Sarah could not conceive again due to a complication. They took the news rather well, because they already had their bundle of joy and did not intend on having many children. They named her Sia, and she grew into a very inquisitive and intelligent child, loved by all. Then she started falling ill often, of which they would take her to the hospital for treatment. She would then get better and she would get sick again. This happened twice, and suddenly her head began to get bigger and bigger, and she began to lose weight. She became a shadow of her own self. They then decided to take her to a specialist hospital, and the doctor there examined her accordingly. I am very sorry, the doctor said. Your child had brain tumor. This was shocking to both parents. We would have been able to help her, but the tumor has spread over 90% of her brain and her heart. I would advise you go home and spend the little time you have with her. They both wept, remembering that Sarah could not try for another child. After the tears, they put themselves together and went to see their child, their daughter. She looked so frail, hooked up to several machines. She opened her eyes slightly and smiled. They smiled back at her, and with that smile, she faded out of this world, back to heaven as an angel. So seeing this girl strapped up on these machines reminded Sarah of her daughter Sia. Sam consoled her, whispering lovingly to her. After she had calmed down, they went back to the room where they both held a vigil in another bed in the same room where the girl was, anxiously waiting for her to open her eyes. Sarah kept staring lovingly at the girl, totally in love with her. Sam noticed, but he shook it off as he tried to tie up loose ends on the phone with one of his clients. When he was done, he checked the time and saw that it was 1 a.m. already. "Honey," he said, "don't you think you should head home and rest? Since you are traveling to Dubai this afternoon," he asked. And she shook her head and checked her watch. "I think you already know I won't be able to go off on a trip with this child in this state? I am calling off the trip, Sarah responded. Sam nodded his head as he started worrying about how he would be able to take the little girl back to her parents, remembering that she would most likely not remember where she is and who she is because of the temporary memory loss. And then he remembered the uniform she was wearing, and he said, tomorrow I would have to find a way to contact her school. He said as he looked at the girl and noticed that she was just wearing a hospital gown and not her school uniform. I would have to ask the nurses for her uniform so I can reach out to her school. They both fell asleep with Sarah's head on his shoulders. The light of dawn brightened the dark room and they both woke up. Sam quickly rushed off to speak to a nurse to ask for the uniform. Sarah went to the little girl, brushing off hair from the girl's unconscious face. Mr. Sam was given the uniform, which he placed neatly in front of his car seat before heading back inside the hospital. The plan was for him to wait for his wife to go home, and then he would head off to look for the school of the girl using the name on her uniform. He waited as his wife left the hospital and made her way home to rest. Then he tipped the nurse and asked the nurse to take good care of the little girl as he too rushed out of the hospital. But when he got to the car, he was shocked to find out that he had 4 flat tires, which greatly surprised him because he didn't see any flat tires when he came out that morning. At Mr. Phillips' residence, after the extreme rough night they had, Mr. Philip woke up and then his phone began to ring. He picked up to find the principal calling again to apologize for what happened and reassuring him that Mr. Philip came back and the door was wide open. He stepped into the house, remembering that he told his wife to stay indoors and lock the door. That was when he saw the kitchen knife on the living room floor, close to his wife's wedding ring. Meanwhile, Mr. Sam had only 1 spare tire left in his car, so he called a vulcanizer to help him fix the remaining tires, and he then bought 3 more, and it took 1 hour for it to be fixed. All new and ready. Mr. Sam got into his car and drove 5 hours into the city, where he knocked out the girl. When he looked towards the front seat to get the name of the school from the uniform he laid there, but there was nothing there. I kept this uniform here now. Abi, did it fall down when the vulcanizer was working on my tires? He parked somewhere enclosed, got down from the car and searched everywhere, but he could not find the uniform. Who do you think took the uniform? Do you think it was Sarah? Or was it the vulcanizer? What could be her ulterior motive for doing that? And has something happened to Cassandra? The door was wide open. He stepped into the house, remembering that he told his wife to stay indoors and lock the door. That was when he saw the kitchen knife on the living room floor, close to his wife's wedding ring. Mr. Sam got into his car and drove 5 he lay there, but there was nothing there. I kept this uniform here now. Abi, did it fall down when the vulcanizer was working on my tires? He parked somewhere enclosed, got down from the car and searched everywhere, but he could not find the uniform. He immediately reached for his phone to call his wife, but she did not pick up the call. He then angrily got back into his car, making a U-turn to go back home to ask her if she took the uniform. A part of him suspected that it was her, based on how she was looking at the little girl back at the hospital, and he was very unhappy about it. He promised himself he was going to have a very stern conversation with her once he sees her, as he was still pondering on this matter and was not really paying attention to the road, so much so that he did not notice the truck coming ahead of him. Before he could swerve his car was hit off the road by the truck, with the passerbys screaming in shock. Meanwhile, at Mr. Phillips' residence, after he saw the kitchen knife and his wife's ring on the floor, the door was wide open as well, despite the fact that he pleaded with his wife to lock the door and stay inside. He immediately got worried. As he moved closer, he heard his wife sobbing, and that was when it dawned on him that his wife was being attacked. He silently moved to his office across the sobbing getting louder. He turned to a corner of the bedroom entrance and then swiftly moved to the bedroom door. He kicked down the bedroom door in anger and barged into the room, gun ready. But then he saw just his wife at the prayer altar, kneeling on the floor, crying, with her hand bleeding. Seeing this, he dropped the gun and quickly grabbed the with his car. He was really surprised by the coincidence, but he still went ahead with his treatment. Ensuring that the surgery was successful, he was taken back to a quiet room and was pronounced unconscious, yes, also in a coma, based on the shock of the accident. The doctor came out to the nurse to ask them if they found any phones or identification on him, but none was found, so there was no way to call anyone who knows him. Sarah was at home after resting that morning due to the stress of sleeping in a hospital and crying all night. She tried to call her husband, but his phone was switched off. She just concluded that maybe his phone battery is dead. She was still thinking of that when she heard someone ring the doorbell, and she opened the door to find her friend Mabel standing there with a huge smile. "Hey girl," they hugged as she let Mabel into her home. She followed behind her as they sit in the living room, and she immediately filled Mabel in on what has been happening since the day before. "My dear, that's how it all went on. That incident reminded me of my lost daughter Zia. My husband just left this morning to go look for the girls' school," she finished, as Mabel looked at her in shock. Wow. If not for God that saved that little girl, what would you guys have done? I beg ye, you have started with all this God, God, God thing again. Everything is not done by God, please. If not for our family's doctor, she would have been dead by now, Sarah said. Mabel was about to reply, but Sarah's phone rang. She quickly picked up the phone. "Hello," she said, as she listened to the person on the phone for a while. "Really? I am coming. Yes, I mean right now." She dropped the call. Getting up, Mabel looked at her in surprise. "She is awake. The call is from the hospital. The girl is awake. I am going to the hospital right now. Are you coming with me?" she asked. Mabel nodded as Sarah ran upstairs to get her bag and car keys, and they both excitedly left the house. Sarah drove as fast as possible to the hospital, as she tried once more to call her husband again to tell him that she is awake, but she could not reach him, and she began to get really worried. Not long, they arrived at the hospital. They both rushed into the hospital and walked straight to the hospital room that Zara was resting in. Her so she can get food for the little girl. Immediately Sarah left, the little girl starts jerking. Mabel, being confused, runs out to call the doctor as she dials Sarah's number. She gets the doctor to come check on the little girl, as she tells Sarah, who had picked up her phone, that the girl is jerking. Sarah immediately left the hospital food court without getting the food and ran back to where Mabel and the little girl was. She met Mabel outside the room. She rushed in to see the doctor, who is still examining her. Back at Mr. Philip's residence, after Philip finished bandaging his wife's hand, he carried her to the bed as she cried softly, muttering, "I am so sorry, honey. Please forgive me." He says nothing as he lays her down on the bed and sits beside her, holding her hand. He then asked her, "My love, what really happened?" he asked softly. And Cassandra began to recount how she was so tired of life and decided to kill herself because her only source of joy knife from the kitchen and went into the living room because she wanted to be where he would easily find her. But as she caught her wrists, she heard a still small voice comforting her, making her realize that she is a daughter of Zion. And suddenly, the scales fell off her eyes as she went straight to the altar to pray for forgiveness and redemption of her soul. How could I have thought about killing myself, baby? How? Cassandra cried as she stood up and knelt down in front of her husband. I am very sorry, my king. Please. He held her hands as they cried and prayed together. Cassandra slept off in that position, and her husband carried her to the bed as he watched her sleep. His phone began to ring, and he picked it up slowly, seeing that it was the doctor from the Peace Clinic. Hello, doctor. He listened, and then his eyes widened in surprise. Okay, I will head out right now. He dropped the call after finding out that the man who struck his daughter with his car was brought into the hospital that day and that he is in coma. He thought to wake his wife but decided against it. Let her rest. I will just quickly rush off to the hospital and then come back. He got up and rushed out immediately. Sarah was walking along the cobblestone at the beach. In front of her, she saw a figure. No, two figures. As they came closer, she saw that it was a beautiful hetero woman holding the little girl in the hospital. They walked towards her, and the beautiful woman looked at her with a smile and said, "She is yours." But behind them, there is a woman running towards them, calling out the little girl and crying. But the beautiful hetero woman blocked this woman and allowed Sarah to go with the child. Sarah woke up on the sofa in the hospital room, realizing that she must have fallen asleep as she rested her head on the couch after feeding the little girl and watching her fall asleep. She smiled brightly as she remembered the contents of the dream, and then her smile faded when she remembered the woman who was running towards the child. But then she told herself that she needs the child as well. Mommy, mommy, mommy! Cassandra turned and saw her daughter. God, Zara! And they both started running towards each other. But suddenly, a beautiful hetero-looking woman blocked her path, holding Zara's hand as she pointed to another woman whom she could not quite see her face. And suddenly, Zara turned and walked towards that woman. No! Give me back my child, Cassandra screamed. She is not yours. She is mine, and I will give her to someone else, the beautiful hetero woman said angrily. No! Cassandra screamed as she woke up from the doctor said as they walked towards the ward. Few minutes later, they came out of the ward after Philip saw the man hooked to different machines in coma. He was short of words because he has been looking for this man, and seeing him in this state without being able to ask him heading out of the hospital in a hurry. At the Nigerian police station, after parking his car carefully this time, he went into the police station where he dropped a report with them, telling them that the man that has his daughter is in the hospital in coma, a victim of a ghastly motor accident. And see if someone comes looking for him, and then we take it from there, the inspector said. After the meeting, Philip left the police station, heading back home. In the car, he checked his phone, worried that his wife has not called, but found out that the phone was off. He quickly plugged it as he drove home. Meanwhile, at his residence, Cassandra was still pondering on the dream and her husband's whereabouts when a call came into her phone. It was her mother-in-law, who had been so supportive. She picked up the phone. "Hello, Mama. Good afternoon, ma," she greeted. "Afternoon, my dear. How are you? And why do you sound like you were crying?" Mama asked. "Mama, it's the dream I had. I saw a beautiful, ethereal-looking woman. She is very beautiful. She's like a goddess or something. She was taking my Zara and telling me the child is hers," Cassandra said. "Did you say goddess?" Mama asked, sounding scared. "Yes, Mama." And Mama immediately hung up the phone. Cassandra looked at the phone in surprise, wondering why Mama suddenly hung up. Meanwhile, at Evercare Hospital, Sarah sat in the doctor's office as the doctor tells her that the little girl is healthy enough to go home with her. He then asked her to sign some documents without asking if the child is hers or not. And she too decided not to bother telling him that the little girl is not hers. When she left the doctor's office, she tried her husband's number again, and it was still switched off. Then she got scared. She goes into the girl's hospital room and helps her get down from the bed as they both left the hospital and entered into her car as she drove her home, extremely happy. At home, she took the little girl to Zia's room, which still remained the way it was since she lost the child. She told her to change her things and come down for dinner while in the kitchen as she prepared food for herself and the girl. Her phone message tone rang. She checked it and froze. It was a broadcast saying that her husband was involved in a ghastly motor accident and has been rushed to the hospital. She covered her mouth with her hand in shock. She checked the phone again and saw that it was the same hospital that the girl was first taken to by her husband. And she also remembered getting a broadcast about the little girl Philip got back from the police and got into the house, rushing at the police station. She looked shocked as she listened to him. "Wow," she said, looking at him as she wipes her hand. She then filled him in on what happened with her call with his mother. He then quickly picked up his phone and called his mom. "Hello, Mama. How are you?" he asked. "Hello, my son. I am fine, oh," Mama replied. "Mama, my wife told me what happened. Hope all is well," Philip asked carefully. "Well, the next day, Sunday morning, Sarah just left the phone from a call she made to Peace Clinic requesting that they transfer her husband to their hospital in her city. But the hospital management asked her to come over to sign some documents and also bring along proof of her relationship with the man. She was not really happy about the outcome of the call, but she would do anything to keep this precious little girl. She heard a loud knocking and a persistent doorbell ringing. "Who wants to break down my door this morning?" She made her way downstairs to the door, trying to make sure she answers whoever that is there so that they don't wake up her precious baby. "Husband on the news," she said as she storms into the house. Sarah closed the door and followed her. "Your husband is in the same hospital where that little girl's parents had been looking for her. Why haven't you gone to the hospital now?" she finished, her eyes flashing in anger. "Good morning to you too, Mabel. And yes, I know that. But I cannot go there alone and leave this precious child home alone. Neither can I take her with me because they will take her away from me. Unless, if you are going to help me as my friend and stay with her so I can run to the hospital," Sarah said. "Hell no. God forbid, madam. Take that girl back to her parents and go bring your husband home. What is wrong with you, for God's sake? I mean, I know that if Zia was alive, they would be almost the same age. But you, on the other hand, are hurting their parents by keeping her here. No, never. I won't take her back. And if you cannot help me or support me, then get out of my house," Sarah yelled, pointed to the door. Mabel looked very surprised, but she smiled and said, return from. With that, she turned and left the house. Meanwhile, Mr. Philip and his wife are already driving to church that morning. They also planned on seeing the pastor after the service to tell him what new developments they have now concerning everything. At 100%. Nothing happens in your life, nothing happens in your business or family except you accept it, he explained. The spiritual world needs mediums, it needs channels, it needs people on earth who are available to carry out their plans on earth. In other words, people at times act out of a script that has been written for them without knowing. At times, they tend to hurt others, thinking in their hearts that they are doing the right thing, but meanwhile, they were under an influence of a discussion made in the spiritual realm. And here in the physical realm, they just act it out unknowingly. That's why I encourage you, my brethren, you need to always seek the face of God. The Bible said, He will reveal deep and mighty things that you know not to you. Praise the Lord, church. The congregation shouted, Hallelujah. After the service, the couple went to see their pastor, who prayed with them and told them that the visit is going to open their eyes to a lot of hidden truth and that they should be patient and saw the goddess in her dreams. That means she is the one perpetuating everything, and all we need to do now is appease her. Mama finished. Philip looked very surprised, but then he remembered what the could you allow the two boys to meet? The goddess gave just one rule, that is to make sure the other twin never meets this one. What happened? She screamed loudly with anger blazing in her eyes. Philip looked at his wife. Then he looked at his mom. Twins? Wait, I have a twin brother? Who is it? And how did I meet him? Mom, start talking, Philip said, with his eyes raging in anger. His mother just looked away from him and faced the priestess. What happened? Were you not supposed to sacrifice him to your goddess? Mama asked in confusion. Sacrifice what now, Mama? A human being or a goat? What is going on here? Can you please make this make sense? Philip exclaimed. The priestess sighed and walked to a small house in front of her shrine, and they all followed her. They all sat down on a long bench outside the house, and she explained, Long time ago, I was labeled a witch who has been eating her children, which was the reason I did not have any child to call my own. My husband of 15 years threw me out as the Umuada in my community chased me away. She looked ahead of her as the pain washed over her. I ran for days and stumbled into the river at the center of the land called a Miyukukusheshe. I had heard of how deep the river was and how angry the goddess of the river is, and how she would take a foreigner immediately they dared to enter her waters. I was ready to die as I jumped into the river, but nothing happened. I waited patiently, but I was not dying. The water gently pushed me out of its depths, ever so loving, and when I looked up, I saw her. Behold, a Miyokukusheshe, as she smiled, and then she spoke to me, beseeching me not to kill myself, that she would take care of me, and that she would give me all I need, even a child. Philip and his wife looked at her in pity, because they know that Jesus is the only one who can give something to a man without taking more from that man. She continued, her only condition was for me to serve her as her priestess, which I agreed. And when your mother came to the water to seek for a child, she granted her twin boys, and I was instructed to let her know that the second child is to be given to us at birth as a sacrifice. It is not to sacrifice him to us, but to stay here with us as a sacrifice. Mama nodded in understanding as the priestess spoke up. So when your mother brought your twin brother to us and kept you, she was warned that none of the twins should ever meet themselves. If they do, the twin that is my son will die, as well as the mother of the other twin. The priestess finished. Wait, so you are saying you trained the other twin? Philip asked her, and the priestess nodded. Sam is my son. I brought him up, although he has no idea what I do. But we lived in my house, not far from this village, and he too had suffered the pain for not dedicating his child to a Miyokukusheshe. She took his only daughter and blocked his wife's womb, until when they come and perform an appeasing sacrifice. But I have not been able to tell him, because how do I put it to him? She sighed in resignation. Philip looked at her in pity, realizing that truly the devil would not give you anything without taking more. Philip, having heard enough, looked at his mom, who looked at him with pain in her eyes, realizing the gravity of what her decisions has caused. So you are saying the man who knocked down my daughter, disappeared with her, and then turned up in coma is my twin brother? and your son?" Philip asked, and the priestess nodded again. "You have to really move very fast. Emi Okuku Sheshe requires a sacrifice of 7 human virgins so that the siege will be over. If in the next full moon, which is happening in 2 weeks, this sacrifice is not done, your twin brother, my son, and yourself will die." The priestess finished. Philip gets up, looks at his mom with anger in his eyes. He then dragged his wife back to the car as they waited for Mama to enter before they drove off. Immediately they got to the house. His mother came down from the car, begging him not to be offended. Philip went inside, picked up their bags, and then they drove off back to the city. Meanwhile, at Peace Clinic, Sarah was still in the police custody as they questioned her about the child and why she was trying to steal the child. Steal the child? No, nah. My husband knocked the child down by accident on a business trip, and because he did not know the best hospital in the city to take her to for her surgery, he decided to bring her to a specialist hospital for treatment in our city. But when the surgery was done, the doctor discovered she had temporal amnesia, which means she could not tell us who she is. So we could not even find out anything about her parents, Sarah explained to the officer questioning her at the hospital. "So why has your husband not come to the police station to report about this?" the officer asked her again, looking at her suspiciously. "He came back to this city to look for her school with her school uniform. That's when the accident happened. So yeah, we tried to do the right thing for this lovely child." The officer nodded and faced the doctor, who was calling a number on his phone. "The MTN number you are trying to call is currently switched off. Please try again later." He sighed and dropped the call. "Their phone numbers are switched off. Oh. I don't know what I'm going to do now." What kind of matter is this?" The policeman shook his head. "Looks like there is no grounds for arrest. But until we are able to get the little girl's parents to come to the hospital, I suggest you give his wife and the little girl a room here." He turned and went back to Sarah. "So you will stay here with the child and your husband until the girl's parents come here? Then you can go. The hospital will provide you all you need. Just take it as a mini vacation in the hospital." The policeman laughed as he saw the very worried look on her face as he left the hospital. Philip and his wife arrived in their city and went straight to the church to see their pastor. On getting there, Philip told the pastor all that had happened, and the pastor smiled calmly. "Pastor, you are really calm about this, sir," Philip said, and the pastor nodded. "That is because the Lord had revealed it to me already, but I wanted you to hear it from the horse's mouth, so that when you return, we can go into prayers for you and your twin brother." At that point, they started praying as other members joined them in the office of the pastor. Philip and his wife checked their phones and found out that it was already switched off due to low battery. They just kept their bags as they made a circle and they prayed fervently. They sang worship songs as they all stood in a circle holding hands, and the prayers continued as they all burst into tongues. After a while, the pastor asked Philip and his wife to enter into the circle as they all stretched their hands to them, praying. And the pastor immediately stopped the prayer and said, "I hear Emi Okuku Sheshe." And they began to bind the spirit of Emi Okuku Sheshe. Something began to happen in the realm of the spirit in a river in the village. The goddess Emi Okuku Sheshe, who was in a meeting with other water spirits, began to feel fire all over her body. She screamed, "No!" Realizing that they were trying to take her sons from her. She immediately disappeared and appeared at the church entrance, but she could not enter inside due to the fire there. "She is here," the pastor screamed as they intensified their prayers. Outside the church, there was fire. Fire rained down on her as she screamed long, and then she disappeared again and appeared at Philip's mother's house. She shot a ring of fire into Philip's mother's leg and disappeared from there. She appeared again in her priestess's place and struck her with lightning and then disappeared back to the water,
where she collapsed and died.
They rounded up their prayer at the church as the pastor told them that they need to turn on their phones. He then escorted them to the car as they drove back home. They plugged their phones to power banks to charge. Not long, their phones came on. A call came into Cassandra's phone from Philip's mother. She picked up the phone as Mama told her on the phone that she was attacked by a Myokukusheshe, and also that the priestess is dead in her shrine. "No doubt it's by a Myokukusheshe," Mama finished. On the other hand, Philip's phone rang. It was the doctor from Peace Clinic. He picked up the phone after listening to the call. He stepped on the brakes and made an immediate U-turn, heading towards Peace Clinic. "My love, what happened?" Cassandra asked in surprise. Philip did not respond. At Peace Clinic, Sam suddenly opened his eyes, and his wife immediately went to call the doctor, who ran to check him and found that he was miraculously okay. He was explaining what happened with him when the hospital room opened. Philip and Cassandra came in. Immediately he goes and shakes Sam, who is still sitting on the bed, and he said, "My brother, it's good to have you back." Sam and his wife Sarah looked at each other in surprise. Philip smiled. "It's a long story, but first off, where is my daughter?" Cassandra said, and a nurse came in with the girl. Philip and Cassandra hugged their daughter and cried. Sam and his wife looked at them with a sad smile, remembering their own daughter Zia, who is gone forever, thinking how lucky they are. But the things he first said was still bugging Sam's mind. So immediately they stopped hugging this girl. Sam asked Philip again what he meant. He then revealed the entire truth to Sam and his wife, who had their mouths hanging open in shock. And then Sam started laughing. "Ha ha 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 ha. Nice one. That was a very funny joke," Sam said. Seeing that Sam is still doubting, Philip placed a call to his mother, who explained everything to Sam. "So my dear, you are my biological son. He is your twin brother, and I am so sorry to inform you that your alleged mother is dead." "What?" Sam exclaimed, getting down from the bed and rushed off. His wife quickly threw her car keys to him, and they both entered into the car and headed to the village. Unknown to them, Philip, his wife, and daughter were driving behind them to the village. Sam drove to his mother's house to find people all around there looking sad. When he broke through the crowd, he saw his mother's body lying on the ground. Her skin turned grey and lifeless. He stood there shocked as he heard people saying that the priestess is dead and the shrine burnt down. Sam felt the first tear drop from his eyes the first time. Whoever she was his mother, and she took good care of him. Philip stepped into the place as well, signaling to Sam as he carried her body into Sam's car. Sam drove her to the mall, with Philip riding along. Few months later, at a baby dedication in church, Sam and his wife stood in front of the pastor with two twin girls, with Philip, Cassandra his wife, and Zara, who sat in the front pews smiling happily. Zara had regained her memories by this time. We dedicate you, Zia Ziora Samuel, and Zara Uzioma Samuel, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They all shouted, Amen. Sam at this point gave his life to Christ and pledged that he would be faithful to the kingdom of God. At Sam's residence, both brothers and their friends gathered to celebrate the twins, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and happiness. Mama was seated there as well after being healed from the attack by a milk busheshe, a proud grandmother. They gathered to eat and celebrate as they took pictures as one happy family, united under God and love. The gift of God maketh rich and adds no sorrow. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you've learned from it. Family comes first, God comes first. Always place everything before God. Thank you. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you've learned from it. I don't mind me. I'm actually in church and we really dance. It's an awesome service. You need to come to my church. Yes, I have this story that I need to share with you guys. It's up on the screen. If you have this kind of story, if you've been molested before, you need to watch this. Or you know someone that has been molested before, you need to watch this. Learn from this. God bless you. And please subscribe and be our fan.